Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first recorded session of New Way's Morning Brew. These are informational parent meetings that are going to highlight different topics about New Way each month. So let's jump right in. Make sure to grab your favorite beverage to sip and listen. So this month, we're going to be diving into our integrated therapy model. And today you're going to learn all about this new exciting initiative and how it's really going to elevate our services that we provide our students here at New Way. So this is today's agenda. First off, we're going to be establishing the what, and that is learning about our program overview and our year goals. Second, we'll be setting up the why. So you'll learn about the benefits to our new model. Third, we're going to dive into the how, where you'll learn how this will be specifically implemented this school year. And then number 4, we're going to have a Q&A session. Since this is the recorded version, the Q&A session is going to be a little bit different than our live version. So that will be a time for us to dig deeper into a few specific questions. And then, as always, please reach out with anything further that you would like to discuss. I wanted to start by introducing myself officially. So many of you might know me from years past, but my name is Kristen Northcutt. I am a proud New Way employee. I have been working at New Way for the past 5 years, doing a variety of roles, including swim coach, theater director, STEM teacher, EF coach, and now my title is the Director of Integration. So I have moved into this position to really guide this integration initiative to be the best that it can be. A couple more fun facts about me is that I am a proud NAU graduate. I have 10 years teaching experience in both public and private school settings, both gen ed and special ed, including inclusive education, which is a foundation of our integrated therapy model. I am happily married about a year and a half, and we are fur parents. As you can see, we have 4 of our fur babies on the screen here. Another interesting fun fact about me is I started sewing during quarantine, and I am now obsessed. I make everything from bags to quilts, and it's just a really great creative outlet for me. Another hobby of mine, and me and my husband, is that we love board games. And so we have kind of a big collection, and we love just decompressing after a long day's work of playing a strategy board game and hanging out together. So as with anything new, we know that sometimes change can be difficult at first. So what we ask of our students every day, especially when new things come along, is that we approach these changes with an open heart and an open mind. And this is exactly what we ask of you as we continue to roll out our new integrated therapy model. So what is this all about, right? If we were to break down the word integration to integrate, keep in mind that to integrate means to coordinate, blend, or bring together separate parts into a functioning, unified, and harmonious whole. Now, you may have experience with our previous model of therapy services at New Way. You may be new to New Way and not sure what therapy services look like. So our goal is to integrate what has been working really well in our academic classes and our past therapy service model, integrate them together to create an even more elevated, high quality, collaborative model between our teachers and our therapists. So I found this really great graphic. And if you think about the word integration, another word that comes to my mind and maybe to yours as well is collaboration. And this graphic just kind of pictorializes different ways to say collaborate, working together, cooperating, help out, assist, communicate. And so I really liked this graphic because it kind of summarized the whole reason why we're pushing out this initiative, because we want to increase our collaboration. We want to serve our students better. We want to expand our knowledge. We want to communicate more effectively with each other. And so this image really speaks volumes to what our program stands for. This is where we've been. So historically, we have delivered therapy services in a few different categories. So we've had speech and language therapy, we've had occupational therapy, we've also had reading therapy, and then finally, we also do provide executive function supports in a variety of different levels, from isolated class sessions to embedded supports in the classroom. So if you look at this graphic, we have our speech bubble, we have our EF bubble, our occupational therapy bubble, and our academic classes, and they're all serving the student directly, right? So those arrows are going directly to the student, but they're working in an isolated model. So historically, we've had one-on-one or small group sessions and communication that has occurred in isolated locations. That is going to be in the classroom, that is in a speech room, in the OT gym, maybe in our collaborative library wonder space, right? All of these sessions have occurred in isolated locations directly to the student. And unfortunately, what this has caused is minimal collaboration between therapists and specialists and academic teachers. Unfortunately, again, if we're going even further into that, this is causing minimal generalization of skills between what a student learns in therapy to what they're actually doing in their academic classes. So for example, if Johnny here goes to a speech and language therapy session on Monday and Wednesday, he gets that for 47 minutes each of those days. He's working one-on-one with the therapist on specific goals and skills. And then when he goes to his reading comprehension class, he's not able to effectively generalize the skills that he's learning in the isolated session because there hasn't been that pre-established collaboration between his therapist and his academic teacher to align the goals and expectations between therapy session and academic classes. So therefore, strategies and tools that Johnny's learning in the therapy room and the academic classes might be working on the same skills, but they're using different strategies and tools. So therefore, it's really, really difficult for Johnny to generalize and think to himself, okay, I'm using the same tools in speech that I am in my reading comprehension class because we're working on the same skill. So whereas this past model has been really essential in developing those foundational skills for our students in the areas of speech, language, occupational therapy, and EF supports, we want to elevate this even further. So how are we going to do that? Well, if we take that graphic and we add a little bit more pizzazz to it, we actually get something that is integrated. So as you can see, I still have my 4 bubbles of support, and there are additional bubbles, right? This year, we are not expanding into our reading therapy. That model will still remain as it has been in past years. But looking forward to the future, we're excited to also integrate that support as well. Excuse me. So we still have our 4 areas: academic, teachers, speech language, occupational therapy, EF, right? Now, all of these areas are connecting and communicating and interweaving behind the scenes to create a whole child approach to education. So as the speech language team is directly communicating and working with the academic teachers to show the strategies, to show the tools that are being taught in individual sessions, so on and so forth, right? And then another aspect of it is how are we going to maximize our collaboration and how are we going to best support our students from a whole child approach? Along the same vein, a question to ask is how can we utilize a solution-based lens when we're addressing obstacles, right? All of these support systems want what's best for the student. And so how can we optimize our communication and our work together to make that happen? And then finally, what supports can we provide to optimize a student's success inside the classroom? Because that is the piece that we have been missing in our previous model. So we'll take a breather, digest that first section. And I wanted to share this graphic with you because the crux of an integrated therapy model is all about inclusive education. New Way does a great job of providing inclusive education, meeting the students exactly where they are, despite learning differences, despite obstacles, and supporting their learning needs. Now, if you look at this graphic, inclusive educators believe in valuing student differences and supporting their learning needs. New Way has mastered that to a T. But if we look at the bottom line, to the greatest extent possible, that's where we have room to grow. And that's where I'm so excited to grow with this integrated therapy model. Because we have valued student differences and supported their learning needs extremely well. But now let's look in how can we do this to the greatest extent possible. So let's get into the classroom and let's provide support in the moment where it's really happening and make it meaningful for our students. This is one resource that you'll be able to access after this recording is sent out. And it's from a wonderful resource called the Inspired Treehouse. And it is going to describe for you what push-in therapy services are, which is another term for integrated therapy services, where our therapists are actually going into the classroom to provide direct therapy services in collaboration with an academic teacher. So that's a great resource for you. And there'll be a few additional articles and research for you to read as well. So I know this is the recorded version, so we don't have a chat in front of us, but if you could just think to yourself after hearing that first section, you can probably think of at least one benefit that you're seeing already to this new integrated therapy model. So hold that in your mind as we dive into more benefits and more reasons why we have chosen this path for our students. So the why really comes down to what benefits is this program going to provide for our staff, students, and families? So first of all, number one, we're going to be able to provide high quality instruction and interventions in a student's natural learning environment. So what this means is instead of having a majority of isolated therapy sessions, we're actually going to have therapists be inside the classrooms providing services right where the students need it the most. The second benefit is educating our teachers on creative intervention practices in the classroom, right? So if there are moments where our therapists aren't in the classroom for a student who hasn't been identified as needing an intervention or a therapy service, our teachers are going to be given professional development so that they can approach those situations most effectively and refer students for additional services, etc. So really excited about that component. A third benefit is to develop a professional collaborative partnership between a therapist and a teacher. And so that is one of our main goals for year one, is establishing those collaborative partnerships. So like I said before, there will be dedicated time for therapists and teachers to meet embedded in their daily schedule. So we're carving out that time because it is so important and necessary for a program like this to be successful. And lastly, it's going to increase our therapeutic reach across all of our levels. and that is in both academic and non-academic settings. An example of a non-academic setting would be a lunch grub club. And I'm sure that you've heard about grub clubs, hopefully from your students, but we have brought them back. They were something that we loved pre-pandemic, but we weren't able to do them in the past couple years. And so some of our therapists are actually leading these grub clubs, which are informal social hangout sessions that all are based on different topics. So, drawing, games, relax and unwind, Legos, whatever the lead staff member has chosen, students can come and enjoy a really low risk environment. And therapists can also provide some interventions during that time as well. So, what is this actually going to look like, right? How is this going to look in our classrooms and in our school? So, our speech, OT, and EF specialists have created unique plans for each student in order to best serve their needs in and out of the classroom. So, a student who has previously received, excuse me, speech and language services or occupational services have been identifying as requiring a unique plan for this year. Some of the components to the plans may include a few of these options. It may include a consultation with the teachers, where a therapist would work behind the scenes with the teacher to address issues and problem solve to provide a great environment for the students to thrive inside the classroom. It may include one-on-one therapy sessions. It may include therapy that's delivered directly in the class session. It may include small group sessions. It may include in-class observations and data tracking from our therapy team. It may include annual goals, and it may include targeted focus areas. And we have been slowly communicating these plans as they have been developed to our families. So if you have not received any notification yet, you will very soon. And this will be delivered via email. And once you receive your student's plan, please feel free to reach out with any concerns and questions. As far as new students are concerned, as you know from your new student handbook, family handbook, you will be your student will be evaluated on a few different levels and options so that we can decide what the best plan is. And that evaluation process will happen during this first year. So stay tuned, new students. The process is a little bit different because we need to get a more complete picture of what your student needs. Whereas a returning student, we have evaluations, records, and data from our past services that we can use to develop those service plans for your students. So what is this going to look like inside the classroom? I am so excited, and I love being able to already go in classes and see therapists teaching and reaching students in their natural learning environment. So year one, this is what our goals are. Students receiving speech and OT services within their academic classes. It's going to reduce any time that they're going to miss with their peers in their other academic classes and allow for a true integration to happen. So statistically, what this is going to work like is that we have slotted 80 integrated class periods every week to occur across the school. And that number is huge, and we are so proud of it. And how this is going to look in specific classes are we have slated reading comprehension, English language arts, English high school classes, seminar, culinary, STEM, ASL, foundation classes, and our junior high seminar sessions as well for our speech and OT therapists to go in and provide services directly to students. Now, how is this possible? Well, we have to have embedded weekly collaboration time for therapists and academic teachers. so that they can meet ahead of time to plan and prioritize interventions and specify different job roles between the two professionals. So that time is already embedded into their daily schedule. Almost last but not least, we're going to have ongoing professional development that is led by members of the therapy team this year so that all of our academic teachers can increase their knowledge of therapy interventions in the areas of speech and OT. And finally, we are still year one, providing minimal one-to-one and small group sessions based on needs of our students. And that is in the area of speech and OT. So we have a ton of thoughts running through your head at this moment, I presume. I want to pause real quick and have you guys save the date for our next morning brew, which is going to be September 28th at 10 a.m. And that is going to be our Executive Function 101 course. And that is all about how you, as parents, can support your students' executive function at home, in the community, and beyond. And so we're really excited about that. Our EF coach and specialist, Coach Lugo, will be joining me for that session. And we have a few surprises. So you're definitely going to want to tune in on September 28th at 10 a.m. It will be on Zoom as well. Again, it will be virtual. And we are working on some creative in-person opportunities for our parents to connect as well. We've just found that Zoom is going to be the most effective in accommodating everyone's schedule, especially in the middle of the morning, in the middle of the week. So again, thank you so much for watching this recorded session of our morning brew. I am going to jump into, I have a list here of some frequently asked questions during our live session. So I wanted to dive into that. And then of course, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me via email. My email is the same as any other email of a staff member on campus, but it is northcutt@newwayacademy.org. And that will be written in the email in which this recorded session gets sent to you, along with a few other resources. So if you are going to sign off right now, thank you so much. If you are staying on, let's dive into a few frequently asked questions. So the first frequently asked question is, how will I know what my student's unique therapy service plan and what it is? So you will have been notified from a therapist, an academic teacher, or myself on what specific plan we are implementing for your student this year. Like I said before, these emails have been slowly sent out over the past few weeks. We wanted to really dive into this parent session before we finished sending out those emails to give you a little bit more context before receiving your information. Another question is, what specifically will this look like in the classroom? And I love that question, and it's so important for us to talk about. So I will give you a brief example. I'll actually go back to these two pictures right here. Now, these are both classrooms where a CODA, which is a certified occupational therapy assistant, are pushing in to provide occupational therapy services to students. Certain students have been identified as needing this extra support inside the classroom. Okay? It is up to you as a family whether you want to discuss this with your students. For lower school students, we are not specifically divulging that information to students in particular and telling them what services they're providing, only because we want to leave that to families to talk about. In high school, however, we have a very transparent and open conversation about learning differences, diagnoses, and needs. And so it would look a little bit different as far as communication in the high school. But getting back to the logistics, if you can look at this first picture right here, you see that this is Miss Donaldson. She's a CODA, and she has this really big it's actually a watermelon bag. And so during the first week of school, her and her partner teacher, Miss Ferreira, this is a STEM class in lower school, they organized a get to know you activity using some fine motor and gross motor skills, occupational therapy based. So Miss Donaldson led an activity called the backpack activity, where students were to look into their backpack and find objects that would describe their personality. And then they would communicate it with their group and introduce themselves in that way. And then throughout that, Miss Donaldson was providing some brain breaks that were fine motor and gross motor based to help students learn the initial steps of regulating when working in a classroom. So I loved watching this activity. It was so fun. Students were so engaged. And I think they really enjoyed having two staff members. Two is always better than one, right? Two staff members in their class supporting them at the same time. Down here at the bottom, you can see this is a high school seminar class. We have Miss Martinez, who is also a CODA, Certified Occupational Therapy Assistant, and we have Miss Morgan. And so this activity was led by Miss Martinez on how to organize visual spatial information on a slideshow. And so she was introducing herself, but also identifying how she made her slideshow and what would be visually appealing to an audience, and providing that relevant OT service as far as organization and visual spatial. So those are just two examples of how this model may look in a classroom. Again, every classroom will look different based on the students in there and their specific therapy plans and their specific needs. But the ultimate goal is that teacher and therapist would work together to address student needs, goals, targeted skill areas and focus areas to create a higher possibility and chance and effectiveness of our generalization in the classroom, so that we're not solely relying on individual isolated sessions, but we're addressing student needs in the classroom. So another question that we got very frequently in the chat was, what research have we done to make sure that this is going to be an effective program for our population? And I will be attaching a few research articles and resources to the email that you get from this session to provide some great background. The research that has been done over the past 20 years on integrated education and inclusive education is mind-boggling. The effects and the positive results that schools and students have seen and been able to implement are widespread. And this is in both general education, special education, pull out, push in, all the different forms of inclusive education. Integrated therapy has been proven to be most effective in long-lasting skill generalization. So I will be sure to include resources supporting that, so that you know that we have really, really done our research, and we want to provide the most high quality program for our students as far as our therapy goes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Of course, you probably have more questions, and I really encourage you to, once you receive that individualized, unique therapy plan for your student, is to reach out to us specifically. Again, if you do not receive one of those plans, it may be for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're a new student, so we're developing those plans at a different rate and process for you. Or number two, your child has not historically received any speech and language or occupational therapy services. So please reach out if you have any questions or would like more information in those areas. But be on the lookout for more information. And we're so excited to see you next month to dive into executive function, another really, really important topic that is near and dear to my heart. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I hope that you're sipping and have been sipping on something really, really delicious this morning. And we will see you all next time. Bye, Bulldogs. Have a great rest of your day.